We're going to start this episode with one big question. Have some people forgotten how to behave at work? Everyone will recognize the messy office kitchen, plates and mugs being left for others to clean up, the filthy microwave where somebody's food's exploded and they've just left it for you, or taking really loud Zoom calls in the office, turning up late for meetings, using a meeting room when someone else has booked it, and it goes on and on and on. And I was pretty blown away to find out that 45% of companies now run office etiquette training. And over £359 billion a year are lost globally due to workplace conflict. So, post pandemic, we think that soft skills have softened and we're a bit out of practice. I think some of this stuff was going on before the pandemic, to be fair, but I think it's got worse and it's costing us. You've seen this yourself firsthand as well, Andrew, haven't you?
Of course, I've seen it. I've never been guilty of it. I've never been the person that's nicked milk from the
not,
fridge or
not even a little bit of milk.
not even a little bit of milk. No, I'd never do that. I'd never do that. Yeah, I have seen this. I think we've all experienced it. And as you say, I think maybe after the pandemic, people, working from home, and some people, I've talked to people who their first job was working from home. They started working from home. So if you then got to go and work in an office and you've never had that office experience, but even people who are experienced in offices, sometimes we perhaps should think about our etiquette and our standards. And what we're going to talk about in this episode, I think, is this idea of that culture of trust. My favorite phrase, psychological safety. And trust goes in all directions. It comes from the leadership down, but also from colleagues across to each other, and also from anybody that you're supervising. So this is about trust. It's about respect. It's about professional standards. We're not nitpicking. We're not trying to sort of wag a finger. We're just saying there's certain standards that we should aim for, such as punctuality and pleases and thank yous. And there's cultural differences as well. But all these niceties, they actually build that tolerance and that workplace culture where people feel safe. Because if you're not showing respect to me, then why should I show respect to you? But then why should I listen to your ideas? Why should I get engaged in your projects? So yeah, this is something about building that culture that's positive. Is not just about the overuse of emojis, but serious things like, sending emails at the right time, not abusing people's trust. And it's less about rules and more about positive relationships, I guess. I think one of the challenges we've got is that the workplace, as we've talked about in previous episodes, has changed so much. And so for a lot of people now, they're in that hybrid workplace culture where I sometimes work from home and I sometimes go into the office. And would you think that maybe that's where things have fallen down, is that we're not 100% either now? We're not all work from home with this hybrid thing.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of well, it presents challenges in itself, doesn't it? Things like, well, some people are in the office, some people are at home. How do you communicate if you're having a Zoom meeting? Do you have the Zoom meeting or the Teams meeting in an office with other people there and some people are at home? It's
Yes.
like this it's like the worst of both worlds almost. It's like ideally you'd either all be together on a Zoom call or a Teams call, or you'd all be together in an office.
Yeah.
And certainly I've seen it's quite tricky to then have that mixed thing, because then you sat next to someone who's on a headset and they're talking
Yes.
loudly, and yeah, I
It's
think
messy, isn't it?
feels messy. That's the word I'm trying to think of. It feels messy.
It's confusing, messy.
Yeah. So it's also about logistics as well. So it can present some challenges, knowing who's where, and that can create friction if you're not available. So it's transparency around where you're going to be. So actually, are people clear about, well, I'm going to be in the office today, I'm not going to be tomorrow, marking that clearly in your calendar. It sounds so obvious, but some people don't do that. So you might be expecting someone to come in and, they're not here, and I've come into the office, hopefully, to see them. So
Yes.
again, it just presents those challenges around communication. And as we said before, the office commute has to be worth it. Who wants to come in to the office to then sit on their bum all day on a video call when they could have done that from
Yeah.
home? They spent half an hour to an hour commuting, maybe more for some people, to be on a call they could have done from home. So there has to be value and a reason to come into the office, whether that's to have a whiteboard session with a group of people, to work closely with your customer, to sit with people. It has to be more than just coming in to sit on a video call, because otherwise you may as well just be at home and do that.
Yes. I tell you, there's something that strikes me as well, Scott, when you were saying that, is that I will have video calls with people and you can't always tell whether they are at home or not. A, because they haven't explained whether they are, but they've got a virtual background on. Now, clearly, I don't use a virtual background, but people have a blurred background, or they have some sort of, New York skyline behind them, and they could be in the office, or they could be at home. Do you know what I mean? You never quite know.
Not unless their kid suddenly appears out of the face
Yeah, suddenly
appears through the background.
this ghost-like figure appears sort of out the New York skyline. Yeah. So, but
Yeah, or you can see them constantly being distracted. It's like,
oh yeah.
So why do they keep turning? There's something going on.
Well, you get that in offices, of course, but I think that's quite an interesting dynamic now that as what we're saying is, I think it's that courtesy thing again. Is, I don't know, maybe you put it in your diary that you are working from home. And sometimes people don't want to do that because they don't want to show that they are working from home and so on. But just that recognition that if you are using a virtual background, which a lot of people do, and I understand why, if you've got a messy, background, or you've got something in the background you don't want people to see, and that privacy thing, you can't always tell. And
I think some companies enforce it. I know my other half, everyone has a branded corporate background with their name on the background.
But then again, you could be anywhere again, couldn't you? You put that
absolutely.
You pull that background up in whichever Zoom or Teams software that you're using. You cannot tell. Now, the advantage of that is, of course, you could be in a coffee shop. You could be. I was watching some car reviews. Both you and I are a bit car geeks, and there's increasingly people will be having meetings from their car. I think it was the latest Mercedes. You could have meetings from your car. So people will be sitting in their
driving.
Not while driving. No, these are screens that only operate when you're stationary, I hope. But you could be anywhere having a meeting. Now, do you need to tell people where you are beforehand? Maybe not. But I think there's that courtesy of explaining to people where you are, or perhaps the other way around is not assuming where people are. Not assuming they're in the office.
Yeah, I was running a training session. It was an online webinar, probably about 6 months ago now. And one of the attendees, they were driving, and they had their phone in a cradle on video call, and they were like, "I'm running late for home.
Yes.
Sorry, I've joined the session." And we're like, "Turn off the phone. This is not safe."
What?
So it was nice they wanted to attend and didn't want to miss the session, but there's got to be some safety and some boundaries there.
Well, I know we've got hands-free in cars, but people do join meetings while they're driving.
Audio fine, but he had the video on as well.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
Screen. It was like, no. Don't do that.
Can we just say on this podcast, we don't recommend that. That's not a recommendation from the Work Unravelled podcast team. Health and safety, that's terrible. But so I think again, these modern, and we talked about in the previous episode about the great reset. Work has changed, and we perhaps still haven't established some of these niceties and etiquettes, have we?
No, and one thing that I've seen a few times as well is the kind of cameras off. And I did a presentation once it was a pitch actually to a group of individuals, and they were from all different organizations around the country. And every single person, apart from the chair of the meeting that I had joined, had their camera off.
Yeah.
And I was presenting slides to a group of people that I couldn't see their faces. And it was probably one of the most weirdest, unsettling things I've done, because I had to keep stopping and saying, "Just checking you're all still with me. Just check, has anyone got any questions?" And I imagined if I was doing that in a physical office, presenting to people, and they'd all put bags on their head and I couldn't see them, or they were just looking away, because you don't know, one, if they're responding, you don't get that visual feedback.
No.
Two, they could have left the room for all you know.
Yeah.
They could have just gone and got a cup of coffee and you're talking to nobody. So I think there's some etiquette there around, I think the chair of that meeting should say, if you're in the meeting, cameras on. It's kind of felt like a bit of a respect thing for me. Now, I get that sometimes you need to turn your camera off and pop to the loo or get the door and those kind of things. But the whole meeting, the camera was off. And it does make you wonder, what are people doing?
I think there's a lot to unpick there. I think if people have got their cameras off, that says a lot about the culture. They've probably got so much work to do that they're trying to do other work while this meeting is going on. Or no, you use a presentation, but you often see people in meetings will have their cameras off. A friend of mine, she has to join so many meetings, she will turn the camera off because there's so many people in the meeting. People start to disappear, their little face disappears, so they all do it. And then she'll turn the camera back on when she wants to make a point. In the meantime, she's actually doing something else. And that says a lot about the work culture. People are doing that. And we get annoyed with people if I was talking to you and then suddenly you got your phone out and started looking at your phone. We find that rude. Well, maybe Teenagers don't. I think that's how teenagers operate. But we wouldn't like it if people were doing that sort of in any other setting. But in work, it seems to be acceptable to turn the camera off. And I don't know whether you're there or not. So for me, I think that that's not very good. That's not very good. That's not very positive, again, in terms of work culture.
No. So how do we think we can create a better balance in these hybrid teams then, in terms of etiquette?
I think,
Working?
yeah, I think, again, compared to previous working situations, maybe 10, 15 years ago, certainly pre-pandemic, we've changed things in the workplace and we haven't thought it through. Now, some organizations clearly are better than others, but simple things like having some sort of rehearsal culture. Ideally, instead of you click from one meeting to the next meeting on Teams or Zoom or Google Meet, you have maybe a few minutes where everybody has to check their camera settings, has to check their headphones are working. I've just had some problem with my headphones. Checking that everybody's got their software up to date. Ideally, that would become the norm. Everybody does that. What you're finding, I think, in some of these softwares, they force you to do that in like the green room before you join the meeting, don't they? So I think that'd be a good thing, is getting everybody used to making sure the tech is working. If you are running hybrid meetings, though, and let's be honest, like pretty much every organization these days is running hybrid meetings, is understand the dynamics about people who are remote and people who are in the room. And I don't know about you, one of those very annoying things is that you are the remote person, or maybe there's a couple of you, and then there's a conversation going on in the room and you cannot hear it. You have that experience. There's like two or three people in the room chatting, talking about something really serious, and you just can't really hear what they're saying. So trying to have somebody managing the meeting that you're not having people having their separate chats in the physical room, because that can be so disruptive and so difficult. And I also think that you need to have that action items shared digitally with everybody, whether they were remote or in the room. So something that can happen is a lot of these meeting tools will have a transcript. That's great. But sometimes the people in the room, they'll take slightly different notes to the people who are virtual. So you need to make sure there's that coordination between what did everybody take away from that meeting. And the other thing we've mentioned, I mentioned this on a previous episode, is there's definitely a psychological difference between people physically present together and people who are remote. And we talked about the what's called the proximity bias. And I've mentioned this. So if people haven't listened to the previous episode, people who are remote tend to get slower career progression. And unsurprisingly, people who are physically together, working in offices together, they tend to build better relationships. They tend to form stronger relationships. And people who work in offices all the time tend to have, increased career opportunities. So if you are managing a hybrid team, you need to make sure that the opportunities are spread equally amongst the entire team, including those people who are remote. Otherwise, they get overlooked for opportunities. So there's a lot going on there. Have you got any other sort of pet peeves in terms of this hybrid work culture that we've got now?
So I think there's some digital do's and don'ts. I've worked with people. I help a lot of people manage their inbox, and there was someone I was working with who had this habit of emailing. She'd get all her emails done first thing in the morning, like this flurry of emails out to her staff and her team, usually between 5 and 6 in the morning, because she would just be buzzing and get up and hammer these emails out. But of course, then when the team come in and see their emails, they're seeing, oh, the boss has been emailing at 5 and 6 in the morning. And we have talked about this on another episode, but that can create pressure and stress for team members, because they think, oh, the boss is sending emails at this time of the morning. Should I be sending emails at this time of the morning? So the tip there is I help to understand that you can use this scheduled send. So actually you queue that you can fire the messages and they get held until the time you say that they should be delivered. So we set them to be delivered at 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m.
Okay.
So that it actually is, again, setting those boundaries and not impacting the team. Same if you want to work at weekends, you can schedule them to be delivered on Monday morning. It's just about that perception thing. And something that I would see quite often as well, which is this, I don't know if you've come across this, you send an email to somebody and there's maybe a couple of questions in there and the email isn't particularly long. And if you got a response, it would maybe only to be to one of the questions and not the other question. So you then go back and say, yeah, but I think you missed that point, and it felt like painful to like, I don't want to keep asking you, but you've ignored this question like three times now. Is it you just don't want to answer it, or so quite often in those times, it's just my advice is just pick up the phone. If you're getting into
Oh,
this email ping pong with somebody, it's very easy to like, oh, we've sent 15
oh
emails
yeah.
now having a conversation. Like,
Oh,
let's just pick up the phone. There's got to be a trigger point where one of you says, I can pick up the phone because we could cut out so much time for this back and forward.
I mean, I know that email is asynchronous. You know, I can send it when I want to send it, and you can read it when you want to read it. That's in theory. So what we tend to do is we send these emails out because I'm in the middle of something. You may not even be in the office at that day, but I can send you a message. But you're absolutely right. I think people will get an email and you send an email as a reply, but then they reply to your reply, and then you have to reply to their reply. And, you know, one phone call would have saved that 5 emails back and forwards. And I think that's a reflection of either A, we're not, and I've got a structure I'm going to offer as well, but either we're not very good at writing emails, or we read into something in the email, you know, we sort of misunderstand. But often, as I said, pick up the phone. People do not want to talk to each other now for some reason. They want to send an email. I think it's partly that cover your so-and-so backside idea that I've got a trail of evidence. I think that's
Yeah,
another reason.
I think we'll definitely do a whole episode on
Oh,
emails
yeah.
and managing them better.
Yeah.
But the other thing, exactly on that ass covering or bottom covering, is oh, I'll just carbon copy someone in, or and then you
Yes.
come back from holiday and there's been an entire conversation going on where you were copied in, and I don't know, 20, 30 emails now in your inbox when you
Yeah.
didn't really need to read any of them apart from maybe the last email. And we'll have some tips in a future episode on how to
We'll
deal with that
definitely have
quickly and
to.
easily.
I hate the copied in, certainly more senior people without telling you that you're going to copy somebody senior in, because sometimes
Oh
it
yeah, it's
seems,
like passive aggressive, isn't
oh,
it?
sometimes it's quite a friendly email, but they've copied in the boss or they've copied in a more senior person. And it's like, don't you trust me to do this work? And maybe they're trying to show your boss, because often you've got the same boss and there's like a matrix, you know, and there's a reason why they've done it. But it can mean like, well, thank you very much. You basically put me on the line here with this senior person, and I thought we were colleagues. That's happened many times. So I try
Yeah.
and avoid CCing people. Sometimes I will CC people, but I'll actually shout out, if you like, in the email why they've been CC'd, because the
Oh,
person
that's
you,
helpful. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Copying you in because, yeah.
exactly, so and so
Mm,
copied in for this reason. But
hmm
yeah, that's not good. That's not polite. I tell you the worst ones. I don't know if you've ever seen this. People blind copy people in.
hmm
You ever seen that?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on there?
Well,
What?
I haven't known. As if you'd
Well,
like can't be copied. But yeah, suddenly someone will say, "Oh yeah, I saw that email." Like, did you? I didn't know you were
exactly.
involved in that email. Oh
I,
yeah, I was copied in. And just to wrap up on the email bit for now, it is your reputation in writing, isn't it? It's very easy to respond angrily or frustratedly in haste. So quite often the advice is sit on it until the next day. But
yes.
even generally, do you proofread your emails before you hit send? And actually, my partner has been using Copilot quite often to uh, tidy up her emails. So she's put in prompts to like, because Copilot, for those that don't know, is Microsoft's AI, can sit alongside your email and your Outlook, and she'll say, make this sound less angry, and it will then rephrase it, or make this sound more persuasive, and it will then reword it for her as well.
I
So you can use AI to help with that as well.
I think those tools are great. One of the things I found though is sometimes I spend more time correcting the email just created through AI than I would do if I just sent something off. Do you know,
Yeah.
it changes this sentence, you want to change that sentence. So I think there's a sort of there's a point at which, you know, it's good enough.
hmm
And talking of email and basically any channel, it's choosing the right channel for that communication,
hmm
not overusing these channels as well. Like you said, a phone call is far more efficient very often than an email. Not sending out too many messages on Slack or the internal messaging system. Not everything is urgent. You just have a sudden thought and people just start messaging each other. We spend our entire, you know, working day just pinging back messages backwards and forwards. It'd be
Just
the,
interrupting each other all day.
well, we're interrupting each other. The equivalent, it would be a very noisy office. So offices are actually silent very often if people are working in the same place. But there's so much communication going on, and there's these side channel conversations, and oh my goodness, it'd be if you could turn that into sound, it'd be deafening. All these pings going back and forwards. So not everything's urgent. Not everything has to be an instant message. if you've got several things to say, maybe you could save it for one message with some bullet points. And if you are going to do messaging, some sort of framework where, a clear subject line that explains what the email or the message is about, maybe an introduction and a nicety. Now, not everybody does niceties at the start, but some people like the fact you say, hope you're well, hope you're having a good day. Some people are straight into the body of the message. But clarity on what you want, why you're sending it, what you expect the person to do, maybe a summary and a call to action. So thinking about how you message as well, not just what you're messaging, is also really, really important. Not overusing too many emojis or using emojis to soften things. So again, I think it's this understanding of modern messaging, because they can so easily be misunderstood. I'm sure you've had emails and messages that people got the wrong end of the stick, got very cross about. So there's definitely an etiquette with email and communications about, why am I sending it? Do I have to send it? Do I have to send it now? And as you said, maybe I can schedule this for tomorrow morning. It doesn't have to go out at 4:55 because I've just had an idea. Maybe I'll schedule it to go out at 9:01 when everybody's back in. Otherwise, they're going to ruminate about this all evening. I can save it until tomorrow morning.
Yeah, those teams that are distributed across different continents as well.
Yes.
Can have an impact. So etiquette can vary. What's polite in one country may be rude in another. So
yes,
people listening who've worked across cultures and geography will have come across this.
Yeah.
So time, for example, is experienced subjectively. There are different cultural attitudes towards timekeeping. So in some regions, showing up late is a display of authority. In others, it's actually a breach of trust. So to give you some examples, and listeners some examples, in Germany and Japan, absolute punctuality is key, so you need to be early. In US and Canada, virtual punctuality, so you can kind of be up to 5 minutes late, that's tolerated. Southern Europe, Latin America, moderate, you can be up to an hour late is often acceptable, believe it or not. And in the Middle East and Africa, you can be flexible. How many hours you're late, you may not offend anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So actually that can have a bearing on the workplace as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, just for those people working in those kind of different time zones, think about that as well.
I think that's fascinating. That's a massive area which we don't have time to go into. But my late, if I'm, Northern European, is not late for us, maybe a Spanish person. And we use the label late. It just means, well, and I think we need to clarify, you might have to emphasize certain things are more important than other important. If you just say we're having a meeting, somebody from a different culture doesn't think it's that urgent. So yeah, helping.
Turn up.
Yeah, they might not turn up because they don't think it's that urgent. So clarity and urgency, and maybe in Britain, in British culture, we're not very open about things like urgent meetings, and we really want you there. It's essential that you are there. So yeah, understanding those cultural differences and helping people with that clarity. But I also think it's interesting you talk about culture. We've got different cultures in terms of ages. And now I always get these confused, but you've got boomers, there's that insult, isn't there?
Remember which one's which.
No, I can never remember, but I think am I a boomer? I think I'm a boomer. But it's an insult, isn't it? A boomer, Gen X.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. My daughter accuses me of being boomer. Gen X, millennials, Gen Z. And we've got all these different people working together at different ages, although we talked about before we start recording that maybe younger people are going to be replaced by AI. And they've got, if you like, different cultural attitudes to messaging and to communication styles, to work, to punctuality, to the amount of work, to the work ethic. So yeah, we also need to think not just across cultures, but across ages as well. So boomers are a bit more formal, a bit more old fashioned perhaps. Gen Z are into that sort of quick chats, a bit more friendly, authenticity. And you're going to try and find in that culture some sort of shared equity. And whichever, and presumably the older person can be a bit more flexible because they're mature, but recognizing not only the cultural difference, but the age difference as well is also part of that sort of, nice culture, isn't it, I guess? AI is also something we need to think about in terms of the culture of etiquette and politeness and trust. I was reading some research that only 51% of the employees are excited about AI, which means a lot of people are fearful and anxious about AI. And I think as organizations start moving into this post-AI world, we're using it all the time, there needs to be some clarity about it. How are we using AI? What are we going to be using AI for? What are the implications? And if we're going to start using AI in our messaging, like we mentioned, Copilot, we're going to lose some of that human touch. And we don't want to outsource our human empathy to ChatGPT. And if you are going to be using AI to respond to messages, is that the best thing? Now, we're all doing it. We're all using these tools. But is this an authentic voice that's coming from you, or is it coming from AI? And if you are having AI write your responses, if you are having AI write your policies and so on, you're going to turn up to a meeting and there's going to be that clash. It doesn't sound like your emails now.
Well, it's transparency as well. So what if the line manager decides to feed all of their employees' work and outputs and emails over the year into AI and says, right, generate the annual review for my employee?
That's right.
Do they tell the employee that actually this review is entirely done by AI, not me, and I've just rubber stamped it potentially? That sounds awful, but that could happen. There'll be some tells in there that AI has written it if people know what to look for. But again, it's just being transparent with that.
Yes.
What are the implications? I still think we certainly haven't fully discovered the implications of all this stuff on workers and the workforce.
No.
But it leads me on to an interesting topic around how we treat AI. Mm-hmm. And there was some stats that research shows if you're polite to AI, so say please and thank you and ask it nicely, the performance of it can improve by up to 30%.
Yeah. Amazing.
So it's not only being clear, respectful, and kind to humans, it also makes the machines work better.
Yes.
Now, hopefully in years to come, when they become sentient and take over the world, they'll remember that we were kind and nice to it rather than coming to destroy us and
wipe
us out
like
Terminator. But equally, we have to balance this. So OpenAI CEO said that the company spends tens of millions of dollars on electricity costs because people are saying please and thank you. Just please and thank you. So there is an environmental impact on this as well.
That's amazing.
There's a balance. And actually an average query through AI uses 10 times more energy than a Google search. And I think I was reading something the other day by Eric Schmidt, one of the ex-bosses of founders of Google.
Google, yeah.
Well, not the founder, but one of the bosses. And he said that he's worried that the energy requirements of AI is going to outstrip Earth's capabilities to support it in the future. So we just have to balance that up. You can say please and thank you, you'll get a better AI response, but you could be destroying the environment in the process.
It's ironic, isn't it? We're all trying to be polite to these AI machines because we're worried they're going to take over the world and kill us all.
Yeah.
But we're using up more energy, which is actually damaging the planet. There's such an irony there, isn't it? But shall we try and wrap this up then, Scott, in terms of what this is about, this whole etiquette and politeness and respect? It's one of those hidden aspects to the workplace. It's one of those, we don't talk about it because we just assume. And we've touched on so many different things here: communications, electronic communications, face-to-face communications, basic things like respect and courtesy to people, saying please and thank you to each other, but also saying please and thank you to the AI. This is a really, really important topic, and it can make the difference between a workplace that people want to be in and a workplace that people avoid and want to work from home, or even worse still, they want to leave and they want to try and find another job. So it isn't something that leaders and managers can sort of ignore. It's something they want to engineer and they want to work on and they want to improve. And as we say time and time and time again, if you're a leader or a manager, you want to lead by example. You want to be respectful. You want to be courteous and kind, and be a good example to everybody else. Thank you for listening to the Work Unravelled podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next one.
If you'd like Andrew or me to help you or your business, whether it is for team productivity, leadership coaching, or communication skills, our website addresses are in the show notes. Thanks, and until the next time.